All right, Mr. Doggett.
Thank you. It seems to me that more than on occasion, I've heard complaints that despite the many months that it took to approve the Affordable Care Act, that we'd acted too hastily on it. When, Mr. Barthold, did you begin your analysis of the effect that passage of today's bill would have on taxpayers, on the level of federal spending, on how many workers lost wages, on how many workers lost insurance?
We began last week, sir.
Last week, before or after our hearing?
I'm not exactly sure. I'd have to go back and check.
Is it unusual for this committee to take up important legislation without the benefit of, I guess, having read the bill and knowing its impact?
I'm not an expert on
history,
sir.
I'm asking you specifically, I guess it is, as we heard
I think that is
about
outside
the failure
the scope of this
to read the
particular
bill. Is it unusual for the committee to consider legislation without the benefit of the type of analysis that you began last week?
Again,
does it happen often? Because you provide that analysis on each bill. Normally, the committee would have the analysis and would ensure that you and those who are working on this model have thoroughly read the bill before the committee acted on it, right?
I can assure you, Mr. Doggett, that my colleagues and I went through the bill with care in order to begin.
You just don't know what its effect is
We've
because
not
you have
completed
had
the
so little
analysis.
time to consider the effect, right?
Let me reemphasize that the whole health issue, as the members have repeatedly noted, is a complicated issue.
It is indeed. That's why you don't run through it hastily and without consideration of the effect. And I guess we heard now this morning reference to Appendix C of the budget outlook of the Congressional Budget Office that came out as this hearing began today, or as this markup began today. You haven't had a chance to look at that either?
I did read some of that document yesterday afternoon, early evening, sir.
But it does not answer fully the questions that your model will look at.
Well, it's really telling you part of what what the Congressional Budget Office thinks baseline activity is, and our analysis is how does the legislation before the committee today, how will that change baseline activity, and then what effects that will have in terms of federal receipts and outlays.
Would you anticipate that this study that you began last week, apparently on your own initiative, will be completed?
I don't have a timetable, sir. We're working on it.
I mean, we're talking about days or weeks or months?
Yeah, I can rule out months, and I think we can have it in the days to week.
In other words,
I'm hoping.
If this committee waited a few more days during the month of February, you would anticipate we could make an informed decision rather than just a decision based on something less than facts about the effect on taxpayers, on government spending, on workers losing wages, and on workers losing insurance. We can make an informed decision with the benefit of those who fully read the bill. You think we could have that information within the month?
We're going to.
Again, the purpose of this is to ask about technical details of the bill.
Yes.
Now, it's a two-page bill. I know the member questioned whether members had had a chance to read the bill, but it's 2 pages.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I could count those pages. It's just the effect of those pages that I was concerned about, and your eagerness to get this bill approved before we know what the impact is on taxpayers, on federal spending, on workers, and how many of them will lose wages, on workers, and how many of them will lose insurance. And it would appear that there's an eagerness to mangle the Affordable Care Act without regard to those considerations and without giving sufficient time to do that. If the gentleman and his staff can have their report to answer those questions within a few days or at least by the end of the month, I can't imagine what good reason there could be for us acting before we know what it costs and what impact it will have on the workforce. That's
Would
my
the gentleman
only
yield?
point. I yield.
Mr.